I was saying if you forgot to count last night, day 25, so you count day 25 today without a bracha. There's this making an observation. Let's say last night I counted day 25 without a bracha. Then what? Could I continue day 26 with the bracha? So the answer is yes. The bracha is not an obstacle in performing the mitzvah. In most cases, probably 99% of the time, the blessing is just an hiddur, a hachana, maybe we'll get to the Noda B'Yehuda, attack on Hasidim. But in terms of, in general, the bracha, that's what Chazal gave us a bracha in order to prepare for the mitzvah, right? So it's the machaber consistent with his view, so that's a simple understanding of this halacha. That if I count at night, if I forget to count at night, I count during the day, no bracha, because it's a machokas, can I count during the day? So we count without a bracha, safek bracha suhakel. And why don't we count with a bracha if we miss a complete day? The Bahag's opinion must be that it's one big mitzvah, and if you miss one part of it, it's over. And since the Machaber is very concerned about a blessing in vain, he says best to continue counting with the bracha, albeit everyone else disagrees with the Bahag. That's a simple understanding of the Bahag. Rav Selevan had a much different understanding of the Bahag, and with different nafkaminas as well. Different practical differences will come out. So the Rav said no. Everybody, even the Bahag, agrees that there's 49 separate mitzvahs. Each day is independent. There is no opinion that says Sfiras Omer is one big mitzvah. If that's the case, then so what is? But all we know is the Bahag definitely says if you miss a complete day, you can no longer count anymore. Maybe no point in counting at all, or at least for us, we're not going to make a bracha. So if it's 49 separate mitzvahs, then why even if I miss the first 48 days, I should be able to count the 49th even with the bracha? So what's the logic of the Bahag? So the Rav had a different explanation, not just him, others also say it, that it's in the definition of a sphira. By definition, a count means, and especially with your accountant coming, he could confirm that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Counting 1, 6, 14, 28, 12, like a quarterback trying to draw you off sides, that's not a count. So, by definition, a sphira means tamidis. It means it has to be a continuous count. The Bahag holds. And therefore, the reason why if I miss a complete day, it's not because it's a separate mitzvah, but I can no longer do it's a local din of counting sphira. That by definition has to be in order and if I miss a complete day, I know, and that's why the Rav says the Bahag agrees there is no mitzvah during the day. Like we assume that Allah is a machlokas rishonim, so we count without a bracha. The Rav says no, that's not why. You know why you count according to the Bahag during the day? The Bahag's opinion is there is no mitzvah at all during the day, so why bother counting? It's to enable me to keep the sphere going. So if I count during the day, I missed day 25, but according to the Bahag, it's a separate mitzvah. So I could go back and do day 26, but it's just to enable me to count, and that's why that's what the Rav would explain also by the question of a bar mitzvah boy in the middle of sphira. In other words, there's a whole separate share on that topic. Someone becomes bar mitzvah in the middle of sphira, the minchas finach. But the Rav, you know why let's say a katan becomes a gadol on day 15. The first 14 days are meaningless. They're only out chinuch. They don't really count for the mitzvah. You know why he has to count in order if he wants to continue counting on day 15? To have a sphira. A mice of a katan counts. So his counting 1 through 14 counts. But according to the Rav, if a katan was not counting during the first whatever days, he can no longer count. Not because it's not a separate mitzvah. It is according to the Bahag's opinion. Of course, we don't necessarily pass like the Bahag. But the Shulchan Aruch, as I said, that's a minority view. The Shulchan Aruch seems to take it seriously in order to not make a bracha. The Rav even says that's not even the Bahag agrees it's a separate mitzvah, but he agrees. But the Bahag himself says you can't count anymore because you're lacking the tamidis. Why not kamina? Either way, everyone agrees according to the Bahag that if you miss a complete day, you can no longer count with the bracha. So what's the difference if I learned a simple pshat in the Bahag? It's one big mitzvah, and that's why I can't count. Or if I learn it's 49 separate mitzvahs, but I have to have a continuous count. By definition, once I mess up a complete day, it's no longer a sphira. And the one nafkamina would be as follows. Let's say someone is, again, it's hypothetical, especially in Canada, but I guess anywhere, someone's scheduled to go in for a surgery on day 22 of the Sphira. This is before, it's scheduled before he starts even counted Sphira. Well, let's say someone's palliative. Not that the doctors know, but they think he's definitely not going to make more than a couple of weeks. So, again, the hypothetical is someone who's not going to be able to finish the count. That's what the point of the question is. You can make up any hypothetical you want. But someone who's ready to start now, but it's unlikely, or at least it's a good chance, that he won't be able, or she won't be able to finish. So again, women, that's a separate discussion. If they're chayiv in Sphira, could they count? Do they? That's a separate share. But we'll just keep it to a he for now, to keep it simple. So according to, if you hold the Bahag's opinion is one big mitzvah, so then it's over. Don't even bother counting, because what's the difference if I do 48 parts or one part? If I know I'm going to miss, again, practically you would count because you don't know it's going to happen. But so if you knew it was going to happen, that you were going to end up missing half a Sphira, then according to the normative understanding of the Bahag, you should not bother counting, or count without a bracha. That won't harm you. But according to the Bahag, you're basically not getting the mitzvah, and we're counting because of the other opinions. And therefore, we're choshesh for Shidduch Bahag, we're going to make a bracha. But according to the Bahag, it's a meaningless count. According to the way the Rav understands the Bahag, you certainly count. Because every day, so I get 25 mitzvahs, I get 15, I get 28. Yeah. As long as you continue counting up until that time, you're getting the mitzvah. The reason why I'm not counting anymore is because it's a local din of the definition of a sphira, but not because each day is not a separate mitzvah. And so that would be the nafkamina between the Rav's understanding of the Bahag and the normative. Mm-hmm. And there's a major nafkamina as well. Even though the normative halach is, and if you ask most Rabbanim, I wouldn't say they're wrong, if you ask someone if you forgot a complete day of Sphira, do you continue counting with the bracha? They'll be familiar with the Machaber and Shalom, they'll tell you no bracha, continue counting without a bracha. However, that's not so simple, that you can no longer count with the bracha anymore. Again, that's the bottom line, but the question is, I said, what's the pshat? So, it seems to be the Machaber takes the Bahag seriously, and he's very machmer making brachas, so that's his recommendation. However, the Shari Mitzurim Bahalacha, Rav Braun and Rav Selevan also says that he says you have to know your balabatim. He doesn't say it as strong, but he agrees. They're really, we don't pass them like the Bahag. And according to the Rav, that Bahag doesn't even say it, that it's a separate mitzvah. But we don't really, everyone's against the Bahag. Rov Rishonim, so we really pass in every day is a separate mitzvah, and even if you miss 6 days, continue counting every day, perhaps even with the bracha. The reason the Shulchan Aruch says not to make a bracha is because it's working with the Shitas HaMachaber that will concern about a bracha of Atola. But the way the Rav understands and others, really, that's not what the Shulchan Aruch is saying more of a hiddur. It's not saying, really, we don't pass in like the Bahag at all. The only reason is, if it's so simple to listen to someone else's bracha, so I'm counting with the bracha, you just sit and listen to my bracha, what's the big deal? Why go ahead and put yourself in a scenario? According to the Machaber, it seems like a real suffix brachas, and you couldn't do it. According to the way other people understand the Machaber, is no, he's not saying it's a real din. Mikra adin, you could get up and make a bracha any night, even if you forgot the first 20 nights. In fact, so the Shulchan Aruch says not to. Others say, they even say lechatchila to make it. The Rav had a compromise. He said, you have to know your balabatim. You have to know who you're talking to. Because what's the concern? What was the Rav's concern? That if you tell someone he can't make a bracha anymore, even though it's not true lahalach at all, but many people associate making a bracha with being able to do the mitzvah. As the Rav likes pointing out, the famous Gemara in Sukkah. The Gemara has a whole discussion. Again, it's a separate shir and a different minhagim, but the Gemara gives different opinions about sitting in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. The Gemara concludes, you definitely sit in the sukkah, yasve yasvinan, bruchi lo mavarchinan. You sit in the sukkah, but don't make a bracha. So he says, look what happened. They tell you to sit in the sukkah without a bracha. Everyone's eating inside Shmini Atzeres. So it's not right, but psychologically, and I guess it's good that they give so much chashivas to the bracha, but the bracha doesn't warrant that much chashivas. And of course, when you're making the bracha, you should have a lot of kavanah. But in terms of it being an obstacle in performing the mitzvah, that it does. So if you're going to tell someone, you know what, don't make a bracha counting. That's cold. I mean, okay, I blew the mitzvah, I'm not going to bother. So if you know someone's going to do that, then definitely, the Rabbi said it's much better for the person to continue counting with the bracha, because according to everyone except the Bahag, that's the halacha. We don't even pass them like the Bahag. The Shulchan Aruch is choshesh v'shitas harambam. You're getting into a deraisa. Real me'ikar adin, we pass it every day separate. So if you know someone who's not going to count, because it's better to tell him to count with the... Others even say, the Rav doesn't want to go against explicitly the Machaber sheet, so he says you have to know who's asking the question, which the Rav did that a lot. In many questions, you have to know who's asking the question in terms of knowing how to apply the halacha. But that's how that was his understanding in the Bahag. That was his understanding if you missed a complete day about making a new bracha.
So listen here, this is the Bahag. The Ravs, they've said that later. I'll tell you what the Rav said first. The Bahag concept is that you will find sometimes that you have a goal in terms of sequence, and each individual is significant in its own right until you reach the goal. And that means you can't go from 1 to 2 or from 1 to 3 without skipping the 2. In other words, the 2 doesn't go ahead and eliminate number 3, but the 2 does signify the direction that you're going, and then you can pick it up. So therefore, according to the Bahag, he used to say, Ba Omer, La Omer, Ba Omer. Ba means individually, in it every day, and La Omer was to the sequence of going to 49. And you find that also in quantum concepts, that each individual has steps, and there is significance to each step. So really, on that basis, the Psak must be in Shavuos, have 2 halachas, days and weeks, and therefore they wanted Tzagav too. But in the beginning, the Rav first gave the shur in my time, he was makbid that to hold from the Bahag, and therefore he had the 2 more.
Right, so that's Rabbi Green saying, like there's some, as Rabbi Green's made another, say the Rav said to say La Omer Ba Omer. That's one of the reasons whether you, whether it's the result oriented each day. Others say the reason you say La Omer Ba Omer, it has to do whether Sphira today is Daraisa Drabanan. In other words, what's the connection whether it's Daraisa Drabanan? If you're counting La Omer, so you're connecting it to the Karban Omer, and therefore we don't have a Karban Omer today. So the sphere is only Bidrabanan. You say Ba Omer, it's a time period, so then you're assuming sphere is Daraisa today, but you're just saying it's during this time period between Pesach. So different explanations in whether it's in the Rav or those people who count La Omer Ba Omer, different reasons for the minhag.
Now, saying the bracha, is it something like Kiddush where someone can be Yotze me on saying the bracha and counting, or do I actually have to say it?
Yeah, so
if the rabbi says it every evening counts, and I don't say anything, have I still been Yotze?
Right, so he's asking, can you listen to someone else's count? So there's 2 parts to that question. One is, can you listen to someone's bracha? Let's say, in fact, that's what one should do. If they missed it, they just listen to someone's bracha. So the bracha is not an issue, according to everyone, well, 99% of the people. You could listen to someone's bracha. It's not an issue. We apply shomea ka'oneh.
Okay.
However, the counting itself, that's a machlokas achronim, because it's svartem lachem, and some interpret lachem to mean you have to do your own personal count to the exclusion of shomea ka'oneh. Others say no, shomea ka'oneh works. It's to tell me that the mitzvah is not I'm based in. So therefore, the minhag is if you can, l'chatchila, you do your own count. So therefore, you should count yourself. Yeah. It's okay, especially if you missed a day, listen to someone else's bracha. That's the recommendation. But your own count you should do. But let's say I just listened to someone else's count and I didn't know, and now I want to count again with the bracha again. So we could apply the svek sveika. Now one suffix is maybe it's 1 mitzvah, maybe it's 49, and even if it's one big mitzvah, maybe we paskin that shomea ka'oneh works. So we always could. So in Sfiras Ova, we're very lenient. We throw in the svek sveika. Even if you relied on shomea ka'oneh one night, you'd be able to go ahead and make a bracha the following night.
So whatever happened to that person who was going to die before he finished counting?
Yeah, so I said, so according to the simple understanding of the Bahag, you shouldn't begin counting. According to the Rav's understanding, you could count until you go. And you'd probably make the Sphira.